Hello and welcome to the Faith and Culture to Your Health series. And today I'm so blessed to be talking to Dr. Judy Mikovits. Many of you may have heard of her already and find her delightful. And then there are others who find her just a big pest. That's because she tells the truth and she is exposing many things that we don't understand because it's been kept a secret from us. For those who don't know her, Dr. Judy is an innovative cellular and molecular biologist with over 44 years of scientific expertise as a Ph.D. in life sciences, including planning, directing, and implementing programs in HIV, cancer, epigenetics, neuroimmune disease, with a focus on development of novel drug and diagnostic technologies. She has demonstrated leadership in introducing and establishing new programs and technologies efficiently, organizing and standardizing processes, and effectively managing multiple projects and personnel. She is solution-oriented. She's a team player with strong supervisor, project management, and problem-solving skills. And she has the ability to build solid multicultural teams within startup and changing environments, and demonstrated ability to foster strong relationships with strategic partners, collaborators, cross-functional teams, and scientific advisors. And she doesn't mind talking to lay people like me. So she's an all-around unbelievable scientist and person and human being. So let's welcome Dr. Judy as our main guest today. And she's going to be in the driver's seat in a minute here. So thank you, Dr. Judy. I first saw you, when was the first pandemic release, the series, number one?
May 4th, 2020. May the 4th be with us.
Okay.
That's
the
what
first
Mickey
time I
Willis
ever
said when
heard of
he
you.
hit the button. Yeah. That's what Mickey
Well,
Willis said when he hit the button that was going to blow up the world. May the
and
4th
it
be with
did.
us.
Yes. Praise God for that. Because
Yeah.
I never forget, I saw that interview with you and I ran over to my neighbor because I was in the middle of treating my daughter for Lyme disease. And she had the port in her heart and all that. Dr. Jemsek, who was helping us, and it was a very harsh treatment, as you probably are aware, to get rid of this Lyme, or what we call Lyme, that you have educated me on. And I ran over to my neighbors and I said, "You've got to see this." And we sat down in awe of everything you were saying. And I can't believe that I'm here, 5 years later, actually getting to talk to you. And this is really awesome. This only God could do something like this. So you're going to tell us about what's been going on, I guess, in your industry, which, as a molecular biologist and understanding our cells and understanding bioweapons. So where do you want to start with all of this?
Well, I think it's good where you were just going with a wonderful doctor in the Washington D.C. area, Dr. Jemsek, and so for you, when did your journey start with Dr. Jemsek, and when somebody said the word Lyme, because actually Lyme, LYME, is a place in Connecticut, and I often say the limes are in my glass, um, because um, because it's this we've made up these diseases. We just literally, just like we made up COVID. Now we were told, and it goes all the way back to HIV AIDS. We
Mm.
were told HIV was AIDS. And so we're told that Lyme disease is an infection with a bacteria called Borrelia burgdorferi. And that's again after Willy Burgdorferi. And It was basically in Lyme, Connecticut. Just they weaponized, a Borrelia strain of bacteria, very specific strain of that bacteria, and it's been in every vaccine since 1991.
So wait,
What?
the Borrelia burgdorferi has been in the vaccines?
Every one of these bacteria and pathogen and snake venom peptides, you name it, all the mRNA, the little m is messenger RNA, and that's in all mammals. You have the DNA, it is written, it is transcribed, it is written into messenger RNA. It is exported from the nucleus to the cytoplasm where it is modified, and 3% of it translated into the protein that run our entire body. And people don't understand because we've been lied to. And so Dr. Jemsek, I love him, and many other doctors have been treating with antibiotics long term,
Mm-hmm.
and they're literally deadly, and they're destroying the immune system because in
Mm.
fact, the key component of the infection that came from the DNA, and to it transcribed, it is written into mRNA and translated into protein, which is exported from the cell. That is the central dogma of molecular biology. Well, HIV never was never caused AIDS. HIV never was lymphadenopathy virus, which was the virus isolated by Luc Montagnier and his colleagues in France, Francois, the Nobel Prize winners. But it's interesting, they won the Nobel Prize in 2008 for work he did and we did in 1983. Well, that's the whole point about Fauci and Gallo and the corruption at Fort Detrick and the National Cancer Institute, the
Mm.
bioweapons program. So it's difficult for most people to appreciate, and especially in the Washington, D.C. area. So, these organizations, and it's in our first book, Plague, and it's difficult to say this because in fact the ILADS organization, which is a Lyme disease association and group that holds meeting, they
Yeah.
are at this point in time part of this huge criminal cover up, and we knew it
Yeah.
in 2011, and they knew it in 2011, that in fact HIV, the G protein, sense of taste and smell, the G protein for, and that's what I sent you this morning in the database of the NCI. In
Do you want me to
fact,
pull that up?
sure. And in fact, because the G protein, sense of taste and smell, it's the sensor. So the sensor, the retroviral component, was a neuroimmune, yes. So all I do is think about the sensors. That was my PhD thesis. If your innate immune system is healthy. So HIV is not AIDS, and the two can't be used. HIV was never LAV, and acquired immune deficiency was never gay related immune deficiency. I defended my PhD thesis, that first 20 years of work, or 12, whatever, it was closer to 12, on November 14th, 1991. And this is when Magic Johnson was on the cover of Time magazine, and he was on the cover of Time magazine because he tested positive. Well, the test was an antibody test, and that meant he was immune. So, how did he get that? Well, it was always infection by injection. So, what we knew starting in
Mm.
1991, and then I want you to think about a movie for your audience. It's called 1986 The Act.com is where you'll find the movie 1986theact.com, and you're going to learn about Barbara Loe Fisher, A Shot in the Dark, and Michael R. Hugo, and the courage and cunning of the beautiful late great former president Ronald Reagan. Because when Fauci and Pharma went to Ronald Reagan between 84 and 86, when the injuries like today were so overwhelming, when you left the mRNA, DNA, and proteins from the cell material of the cell lines that you grew the viral vaccines in. And it's chapter 5 of our first book, Plague, will tell you the first cases of autism and myalgic encephalomyelitis amongst actors and actresses in Hollywood and the nursing staff. How did we get that in 1934? Well, that's the first time we passed the polio virus through mouse brains, and they want you to think that the monkeys running around by Tulane University. I mean, are we having fun right now as they try to cover up and make you think the monkeys are carrying the disease? The infection is not the disease. If you didn't inject the Borrelia, Babesia, Mycoplasma mold, and look at that August 29th, 2011 email that I wrote to the head of the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, because all of the AIDS, acquired immune deficiency and dysfunction, all of the AIDS strains and variants, all of them were the result of a 4 decades contaminated blood supply and contaminated vaccines. Because as we now know from the Informed Consent Action Network, from Del Bigtree, from the beautiful work of Aaron Seary, and I'm just going to keep going, Ron Johnson, Bobby Kennedy. I mean, we're having so much fun last night, and they're playing it like a fine orchestra, and the conductor is straight up Jesus Christ. I should do that because the
Yeah.
Bible's in my left hand. I'm thinking about the pilgrims and the monument, and that's where I am in my reading in the Founder's Bible. I'm talking about the monument in Plymouth that our founding fathers set
Yes.
up, and who we are, because these have always been infection by injection, and Borrelia is a cofactor like tuberculosis or thrush. Why do you think they're testing people for TB right now? And that's all heavily detailed in great detail in our 3 books, Plague of Corruption, and Ending Plague is the key one, because that's the first time that Frank Rossetti, he writes the first half of the book, and I write the second half because I'm almost 16 years his junior, and I was his only student before, thank God, his son was born in 1986 and dad would leave me alone. So because it's like, I don't care. This is the truth. This is integrity. Those are the scientists. Those are the people. The difference between politics, many blood sucking organism, and statesmen, Trump and Kennedy, is integrity. And there is no compromise and there is no consensus. And statistics aren't math. And science is only God's law and nature. And when you inject the mRNA from monkey, cow, pig, aborted fetal tissue, just pull up the CDC excipient list. That means everything in the shot that's not what you thought was in the shot. And it's in our book, Plague of Corruption, where I talk about my identity stolen in vaccine court. And so Frank and I, the minute I got out of jail in 2014, we started a company. And by the way, it has to say Dr. Judy Mikovits because my name is Judy Nolde. So I'm Ms. Judy Nolde and I'm Dr. Judy Mikovits. And my husband was never, his name was never Mikovits, and nobody named Mikovits ever lived in the state of Nevada or the state of California, not Ms. Mikovits. It's Dr. Judy Nolde or Dr. Judy Mikovits, because of course, just like other people that are in the government, my curriculum vitae, my life's work, everything I've ever said, written, or anything is held in that NIH where you're pulling up that document. They steal all of the taxpayers' money and they gave it to those corrupt universities, and DARPA stole it, kept it from our military. And I'm just going to keep saying it because we own all the patents. Rossetti's, 3 of them. Noldes, the whole family, and the National Cancer Institute. Tony Fauci doesn't own a single patent. He and the criminals at the top. I sent you a picture. Why did Hillary Clinton, when she was, yes, this is the GPR 15, and we'll go back and because I can get circular really fast and circle the
Okay.
drain.
You just tell me when to put it up and not put it up. I'm
No, go
fine.
ahead and put that up, and then I
Okay.
want you to put up the slide I sent in your text where Hillary Clinton, Harold Varmus, Tony Fauci, John Gallen, a Dr. Volkov of the NIDA, drug enforcement or drug agency. Hillary Clinton's right in the middle of it. Harold Varmus comes back to, and this was November 8th, 2011. The first chapter after Bobby's brilliant forward, because he did not finally understand what I was saying. And I'm not saying finally him, I'm saying finally God answered my prayer and taught me how to communicate with at least one other human being who didn't think I was insane. And that was first Bobby Kennedy on October 12th, 2019. And of course, Mickey Willis, who had been talking to me for almost 6 months since that's the chapter in Ending Plague called The Filmmakers and an Angel. So when I tell you these things, I want you to listen. And we do a book club every Wednesday night where we're going back to Zoom and getting off X Spaces so we can show you the words just like we show you the picture. Okay, so what is GPR 15? Well, we weren't able to characterize all this stuff back when I did my work in the 90s. But what we did know was that there was a trafficking molecule. Joe Oppenheim, hero Joe Oppenheim, also murdered. I want you to know everyone that stood since 1975 with us in the National Cancer Institute is now, including Candace Pert, Molecules of Emotion, Luc Montagnier, Joe Oppenheim, Kunio Nakashima, who did, I don't know if he's still with us, but almost everybody was forced to take the shots, and they're either brain dead, incapacitated, because that, when your short-term memory goes away, the Lyme disease, Lyme, Connecticut, this is a G coupled protein sensor. It's a sensor, and that's your sense of taste and smell. So taste, sense of taste and smell. So this is the human protein atlas. And all you have to do is go look at this is at the protein level. We can do it at the DNA level, and we can do it at the mRNA level, so that you see throughout molecular biology what's expressed. Yeah, this is perfect, because if you look at this goes back to the story because this is November 8th. The caption under the picture there says November 8th, 2011. So there, right there in center, fourth from left, is Hillary Clinton's Secretary of State. And so she's standing there flanked by these people. The guy on the the audience's far left, on my far right from looking at you at this picture, is John Gallen. So he's now the head of Leidos, the cancer contract at the National Cancer Institute. You mean those people who won't give me my retirement or my name back? Oh, okay. The bioweapon in the airport, Leidos. How are you detonating the sequences, the capital mRNA, the manufactured mRNA that you've been injecting into people untested since 1934? And when Ronald Reagan said, I'll remove all liability from pharma. The first thing he said in 84 was, why don't you make them safer? And Tony Fauci said, they're unavoidably unsafe. Somebody will always die. Oh,
Wow.
that's not going well for us. Oh, who
Mm-mm.
will always die? So, the poor people that have to eat glyphosate, because that was my PhD message. Who did I do my PhD at biochemistry and molecular biology? The chair of that department in 1988, when I started it, to 1991. What we knew was that only 1 in 10,000 T cells, your adaptive immune response, was infected with HIV, and yet all the T cells were dying. And so what your government called it was bystander effects. And so in order to do a PhD, I said, "Oh, that's ridiculous. There's another shooter in the innate immune system. Who's the guy who's supposed to get the HIV out of there? Gain of function or not, it doesn't matter. All we have to do is never inject a thing again. And I mean, don't inject yourself, because the GLP-1s don't say things you don't know either. If you don't know what GLP is, stop it. So this Lyme disease, there's no such thing. It's a place in Connecticut where that team of people you just showed on the screen
Mhm.
planned, and I want you to go back there because it's very important to think about. Here's what she said. Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton, and this was published in the December 2011 CDC News. Centers for Disease. Go find it. You'll have to use a Wayback Machine because they cleaned it off the internet, so you can't find it. Well, we already had it. Anyway, so Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton called for a renewed push for an AIDS-free generation. AIDS-free. Notice she didn't say HIV free. Now, HIV has been injected, starting with Magic Johnson, in every hepatitis B shot at birth. When you
Wow.
mess up your epigenetics, your DNA map, at birth. So, and this is the movie Protocol 7. Watch it again, because I wasn't Wakefielded. In Andy's beautiful movie, Protocol 7, I am we're the scientists. We're the lab rats. He got it perfect. I was Duesberg. Who was Peter Duesberg? Listen to Celia Farber's book, or get it, Serious Adverse Events. She re-released that. That was released in the 80s, and she had to re-release that in 2024 when we all, probably 2023, understood what it meant. Okay, so she was in a November speech. The next day, November 9th, 2011, is the first chapter of our book after Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s brilliant foreword about the corruption in every single vaccine program since all liability was removed. They used that vaccine court and that compensation program. Watch the high wire last Thursday. They nailed it. They always do. Thanks,
Yep.
Dale and Jeffrey Jackson. They're great.
Yes.
Um,
Thank
and
you.
Yeah, we're just so grateful for them. So,
Very.
it at the NIH Clinical Center's Mazer Auditorium. Okay, so that's 50 miles from Fort Detrick, and I guarantee you, I never worked one day for the NIAID. I worked for those 22 years for the National Cancer Institute. As you read in the beginning, I was gone 1 year when I did in 1986 to 1987. I did a fall to fall, August to August. I did a sabbatical, I call it, up at Upjohn, which is now Pfizer, and saw what they were doing to the cows. We're just, I mean, it's all in the book, Ending Plague. So what she says, so she's there marking 30 years of the fight against HIV/AIDS. No, wait a minute, we cured that. Magic Johnson's on the screen celebrating the second Los Angeles Dodgers World Series championship. Magic, can I have a ticket next year? And I was supposed to have a job interview on November 9th, 2011 with Patrick Song-Chong. And what would I have done? Oh, well, I had the patents for diagnosing literally a single base change, and that's one of the papers. A varying T cell subsite explains apparent tobacco smoking induced single CPG hypomethylation in whole blood. What that means is it takes the methyl group off and it says, go fight with your nicotine adenine dinucleotide potential hydrogen. Thanks, Brian Artis. He's fabulous too. Okay, so there's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
fight. There's no fight against HIV/AIDS. Your National Cancer Institute, your Candace Pert, your molecules of emotion, Mike Ruff, her husband. We made the peptide called peptide T. Watch the Dallas Buyers Club and ask yourself, why did that movie come out in 2013? And then watch the movie by Randy Schiltz, called The Band Played On. Yeah, the marching band refused to yield. I think of American Pie a lot. I live in my head. Uh,
Wait,
so it when
Dr.
you,
Judy,
yeah,
hold on. You,
okay.
you're so full of information.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. should I raise my hand?
No,
I
yes,
feel like
please.
I'm,
Yes.
okay.
So
Um,
please interrupt
you,
me, because what I want you to do is go back now to your own journey. And when the first time with your daughter, how close was it was to 2011? I just
okay.
want to hear what happened.
Okay. First, can I ask you, what are molecules of emotion?
Oh, Candace Pert, that's the name of Candace Pert's book, Molecules of Emotion. And it's
Okay.
all about the runner's high and endorphins. So endorphins are feel good, and it's part of the corruption. Just keep going out there and exercising. Just keep going out there and exercising, because what is your heart? And where are your mitochondria? And where is this G protein called GPR15 a sensor? Oh, the mitochondria on very specific cells. And so we knew there was a neuro AIDS in 2005. I left the National Cancer Institute I married David Nolde on October 7th, 2000, and I left the National Cancer Institute on May 11th, 2001 as Judy Nolde. My first day as the director of cancer biology and Epigenics Pharmaceuticals, Epi, capital GENX. This is all about your X chromosome, because your mitochondria, the mom, every human being has an X chromosome. Why do you think autism gets the boys and the girls get much more severe, and they get hit at puberty? And nobody should have ever gotten any shot in seventh grade. That one was DTaP. DTaP causes AIDS, and I mean acellular pertussis. Why? Because it's contaminated with a little mRNA synthetic. It's capital M. because it had to be capital M after our 2009 science paper. So when your audience starts listening to the corruption, but I also want you to see, and that's why there's always a smile on my face and a love on my hat, how black and white is, because your God gave you every protection from them. All you need to do is never, 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 ever inject anything. And I mean insulin, IVIG, none of it. Inject nothing into the blood of Jesus. Nothing. Nothing. Yeah, that's zero. Nothing. I haven't, it doesn't matter. Okay. So that's what endorphins are. So Candace Pert and
Okay.
Mike Ruff, her husband, designed that, wanted to understand the chemokine signature of that runner's high, and it even goes to orgasm, it's important because that's why Healing for the Ages, shout out to Ed Group, and where he's going back to what we've done to sex versus love versus marriage between a man and a woman. Because my PhD thesis, the molecular part of it, was done in black transvestites. Kish, if you're still out there, I love you. Watch your behavior. Because and it was because I had to take this. And Alan Goldstein was the chair of that department. You'll hear it in Ending Plague. And his claim to fame and work we've still done is thymosin alpha 1, thymosin alpha 2, 4, peptide T. These are peptides. Your body makes your own defense and sends the fire trucks to the fire. Your exosomes outside of you, they bud off your different immune cells in order to signal the adaptive immune system from that paper. So I sent you the genetic link and where the gene was, if we want to go back to that paper, to that
Right here.
link, yes, because what that is then, and you can read it to your audience. So there's the whole protein. A peptide's just 3 amino acids and up. A protein is hundreds of amino acids. And MTHFR is methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, but this one is a G protein for sense of taste and smell. Oh, so what is it associated with? Oh, cancers, lymphoma. It's on chromosome, I believe it's on chromosome 3. And so Rich Orley, Ulrey, he wrote the book Minerals According to the Genetic Code, is a book written about him by a guy named Watson. And so Rich Ulrey, and his expertise is minerals and what he can do with a computer. He made the substitution on the radioactivity. So you see the radioactivity and hitting the bioweapon. Now you don't need a needle anymore, folks. Why? Because they already have injected you with every manufactured RNA. Every shot since 2009, 9 was a COVID shot. And this is why Hillary wrote that note. So this G protein, IL-8, interleukin 8, Joe Oppenheim, is your big marker for cancer, brain cancers. That's your G protein that takes those cells to the brain. Now, G protein 15 is a sensor that is your mitochondrial response to leucine, an essential amino acid, and the mitochondria in your brain, your heart, and your muscles. That's where your mitochondria are. So now you've got an infection of the heart because now this is taking your exosomes with your defense to the heart. And so when you pump antibiotics into people thinking you're going after Borrelia, and oh, by the way, the chemokine cytokine signature that a company, I won't say their name because I'm kind today. It's still Monday. And and the but that company stole the signature of disease and then started saying one chemokine at a time. They promoted the use of long-term infusion. And I was with Dr. Jemsek at the beautiful Academy of Nutritional Medicine in London. Shout out to those folks who I just saw recently again. Never thought I'd see them again. And we had whole conferences on this, but I was censored. But they were kind enough to continue to let me be the master of ceremonies and ask the questions and see if I could get it. And Joe's just a hero, but they're going to shut him down. Now the standard of kill is they let them inject this. They let them use IVIG, which is injecting 10 pooled human intravenous IV immunoglobulins. Oh, so you just took 10 people? There's nobody healthy since 1986. You pooled their antibodies and you're injecting them in your children who are so compromised they can't make any antibody. The disease is called CVID. That's why they had to call it COVID. It didn't have anything to do with SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2, the paper is Journal of Virology, Moore et al., 2004. It's Beijing. That's why Trump says China virus, not Wuhan virus, China virus. Beijing, Harvard, and UMass and Berlin. Those were the organizations. Read the authors of those papers. Those are the criminals that brought you Lyme disease, which I just call neuroaids. So Obama intentionally, that's Sandy Hook. What happened at Sandy Hook? Why are they going after Alex Jones? All he said is similar to what I said. It didn't happen the way you said it happened. That's not what happened to your children, and you know it. Who was Adam Lanza and who was his mother? Oh, she was just crazy. And then go look at the pharma connections in that family. And then look at the detonate switch by Obama. That's, I'm going to say, similar to a detonate switch that happened in Butler, and another one that just assassinated, from a distance, boom, in the heaviest kids that are from a distance, assassinated Charlie Kirk. And again, these kids are brain dead. They've been injected with the deadliest COVID shots since 2009. Oh, and now they're adults and they got injected in puberty. So you see the gene protein sequence, and I encourage everybody to go look up. This is the protein or the gene. Look at the protein and you'll see, lymphoma, head and neck cancer. It's not HPV, folks. The Gardasil shot was similarly criminal. And in the Gardasil shot, we get AML, acute myelogenous leukemia, that used to have an average age in this country of 86. And now it's 13. Oh, yeah, we're killing them. We're killing them. And we're calling it turbo cancer. And I told you when they started it, 1975. When did they put the National Cancer Institute at Fort Detrick and just turn the sign on the door? Listen to Ending Plague. You'll see that the corruption, but the good news, the God news is all of us God-fearing people like Joe Jemsek, beautiful people like Jillian there at the Academy of Nutritional Medicine. These folks never stopped. We didn't care what you called the disease, and I'm not mocking those patients who said, Dr. Judy, I have Lyme's. I'm not crazy. It's so sad. It used to make me cry. And I'm like, honey, the Lymes are in my glass. You have Lyme, but it's not Borrelia. Please, please, please. Now we have the tools to stop the injections, to take these ports out of our kids. Don't let anybody put any of that. The broad spectrum antibiotic, I can put the ivermectin to it, a fermentation product, not regulatable by the FDA or anybody else. Sermon, we're going to have sermon for you for autism, because you see, I designed the PCR for every spike protein. I can tell you, like this one, what hypomethylated that. Stephen B. Balin, love you, Stephen, if you're out there, heads of Johns Hopkins University, Balin's Ph. and that's what I showed at the Truth About Cancer in 2021. So you see, all the data in the government. So your Trumps and Kennedys aren't lying to you, but you, the people, they have to kill. That's go back to Hillary's article. There you are. We're going to have an AIDS-free generation because we are criminally liable for everyone we injected with hepatitis B. Why do you think Trump started there? No, a newborn is not you didn't he is not a sex offender, and you don't need to give it its first sexually transmitted disease on the first day of their life. There never was a reason to do that. And everybody that stood is, Jeff Bradstreet, 2017, we were high-fiving in Autism One, and Bobby Kennedy was there. Chicago. Oh, why is the Chicago Tribune? Why did they go after me? I mean, a little deep dive in a little history. So let's keep reading this, because she's telling you exactly what Obama planned. And these people stood there in their suits on November thinking I was going to die, scientists at sea. And we escaped on that boat. I called Frank at 4 a.m, said, Frank, what do I do? Our house is surrounded. And he said, I knew he was there at 7 o'clock at Fort Detrick. And I said, what do I do? Our house is surrounding. He said, you idiot, you got a boat. They can't take you off the water. And throw that phone in the water. Thanks, Frank. Bye-bye. Thanks, Frank. Yes, dear.
Okay. I just want to bring to everyone's attention, for those of you who are not familiar with Dr. Judy, she has been through so many attacks, and any doctor, even Dr. Jemsek, who she knew and we knew, he was totally supposedly discredited in North Carolina, pretty much lost everything, had just built a beautiful facility for his patients, spent $10 million doing it, and he had to completely close down and leave because they do not want people to know the truth. Right. This is just everybody who has stood up and spoken the truth. I think of all of the people during the pandemic in 2020, Dr. Ryan Cole, he had to sell he had 2 facilities. It takes so much to make that money and to rise to that level where people respect you enough and trust you to send their lab work to you. He had a epidemiology, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, 2 facilities.
He's a pathology, so he's a pathologist, so he looks at samples and autopsies and things. And he had 2 facilities running to give you the right pathology. Fabulous. Yeah, love you. I love all these guys. They're all heroes of the faith.
And so they come after them, and I mean these nefarious actors within the government structure. They weasel their way into this structure, and they literally knock them off, and
they sell their soul. They sell their soul.
They do, and they bankrupt them, and the good doctors just keep on moving forward. They have to pull things back together because they're just people. They're average people who really care about others. And so Dr. Judy is one of these prime examples. I think she's been through more than most because she's a fighter, and they can't.
Well, I'm also the only Ph.D. I'm not better than them. I'm also the only Ph.D. Except for the beautiful, sorry, I'll think of her name in a minute. But there's one other PhD, and she's testified in front of Congress, and that's important. But she didn't get her PhD till 99. They want you to think this didn't start at 9/11. They want you to think this started in 99. They want you to think that this was all just, because what's important that, Hillary Clinton has to do here is she has to carry out Obama's treasonous plan to destroy the United States of America. And yes, Candace Pert was a PhD, Frank Rossetti a PhD, Joe Oppenheim an MD, but what a hero that guy is from. And so you couldn't publish a scientific paper if you didn't have a PhD. So all these, and then they changed the journals. So the fraud is at the level of the journals. These are the gatekeepers. They decide who gets the government grants. They decide who lives, who dies, and who tells your story. I think that was Hamilton, the musical. Sorry, I get caught. They get to decide. If you don't kill yourself, I say, beautiful Timothy Cunningham, CDC, murdered. Beautiful Jeff Bradstreet murdered in North Carolina, in 2017, and just before Father's Day weekend, because we stood, and he's a God-fearing man as well. And he said, nope, and we have all the cures here, folks, and you, the people, own them. And you, the people, own them. And you, the people, own them. You, the taxpayers, paid for them. So what is your problem in 2009? Well, before the Brushewitz decision in vaccine court, that's why I want everyone to watch that movie, 1986, The Act, because you're going to see Michael R. Hugo, the lawyer that worked with Barbara Loe Fisher. So you see, I'm the only PhD still standing, still standing of the generation that made all the discoveries. Everybody else, for Luc Montagnier, was murdered February 8th, 2022. I won't, there are a couple of others still out there, but everybody else, Joe Oppenheim was murdered, everybody, and they knew they were hitting, oh, he was just an old man. That's not okay. Not 1 second before God tells you you're not the end of life date. But they're convincing people to scare themselves. So Timothy Cunningham, murdered, literally. It's a chapter of the fate of those who fight the darkness in Plague of Corruption, tell you that. But so she's telling you the goal of an AIDS-free generation is ambitious, but it's possible. Emphasizing the use of scientific advances to stem the pandemic. Wait a minute, there was no pandemic in 2011. Oh, you mean the pandemic, honey? Oh no, you started that. That was Mickey Willis, and he's brilliant again, and just a God-fearing man who let me talk to him for more than a year, just like this. The movie was Good Will Hunting. Somebody put a gun to both of our heads and said, and he's trying to understand me, and I'm trying to stay out of jail again, and if he doesn't, and we have to pretend we're talking in a room, watch the movie Good Will Hunting, because I know I'm going right back to jail if Mickey Willis, if I lose my temper again, and that sweet man is the psychiatrist Robin Williams that has to send me back to jail. Anyway, then this is, I think funny. Everybody knows I think funny. I'm a weird circular thinker. Anyway, she said, we need to let science. This is Hillary Clinton. She's Secretary of State. It's November 8th, 2011. We need to let science, not the science, not Tony Fauci, science, guide our efforts, she told the packed crowd of scientists. Listen who she was talking to at the clinical center at NIH in Bethesda on an evening, the November 8th. Wednesday was November 9th in 2011, and there was a full moon in the Channel Islands harbor, and we escaped on that little boat at 12:30 afternoon, and boy, that was the day I knew I was supposed to die if I didn't listen to Frank and get on that boat. That's the story. It's only God. I'm not. It wasn't me. It was only God, because God, the godly people are still here, and we're never giving up on you. You can kill me, but liberty, I got the Patrick Henry Award, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Give me liberty and give me death right after life. I'm an identical twin. In vitro fertilization is against God, and so is RU46. Conception is life. That's 64 cells. I'll sit there in that test tube with my identical twin. And implantation is when we become two human beings. How many twins were killed? How many identical twins were killed by in vitro fertilization? It's murder, folks. I don't
Wow.
care what you think. And right there, 2008, she's standing there, and
Okay.
she thinks I'm going to die on November 8th, 2011. She knows they've surrounded my house in the middle of the night. Why don't we just say J6? She knows they've surrounded my house because they're going to silence everybody they know has the truth. And so she said, using a variety of tools in a combination prevention strategy as the most effective way to combat. Now it's HIV/AIDS because it can't be XMRV/AIDS, can't be Lyme-Aid. Hey, I think there's a drink like that. Can't be Lyme-Aids. It has to be HIV because, again, they're criminally and economically liable, a disease able to affect the economies of nations. Hillary Johnson, the foreword of the first book. You can hear it. You know when DARPA stole the data. Okay, let me just finish. As the most effective way to combat HIV/AIDS nationally and globally. Hey, you don't have any choice on globally. There's your one world with the focus on here's your three key interventions: ending mother to child transmission. Why? We just sterilized all the women with the COVID shots. So you won't have any more mothers and children's folk. They're all sterile. And the research director of Pfizer told you that on December 2nd, 2020. Thank you again, Bobby, for showing us that in Children's Health Defense, Brian Hooker. Okay, we're gonna expand voluntary medical male circumcision. You don't mutilate God's beautiful body on the first day of life. That's not when vitamin K. So everybody that wouldn't accept the shots somehow are being forced to thinking that circumcision is necessary, or your children, your boys will get head and neck cancer. Oh, wait a minute, Bill, what were you doing on the desk, under the desk with Monica, Bill? Oh, yeah, now you've got all these head and neck cancers. Shout out to all our friends who just got killed with those injections. And again, that's the Gardasil shot. So they've all got HIV, everybody. Anybody who tests positive for HIV, especially here in California, there's a program for that, and you got to pay us if we make less than 8,000, less than $72,000 a year. Do you know, in my 22 years at the National Cancer Institute, I never made more than $80,000 a year, and that was only the lab of antiviral drug records. Oh, and they took that all. They erased me from NIH folklore. Anyway, the third one. So voluntary medical male circumcision. A newborn didn't volunteer to be mutilated. Mom and dad, stop it. Stop it. Circumcision is not. We are Christians. We don't do that anymore. Stop it. Anyway, I get to say stop it if Trump does. And then the last one is scaling up treatment of people living with HIV/AIDS. We're going to kill them all. We're going to use the wrong drug and the wrong time and the wrong person, and we're going to use it at 10 times the dose. Hydroxychloroquine, anyone? The crimes, the war on ivermectin. Rapamycin, use the wrong drug. Nattokinase in a supplement, or natto and a kinase. Oh, it just kills you. Okay, good. You won't ever make glutathione again. And it's this pathway that the sensor, the on-off switch, is G protein 15, not IL-8 as it was in cancer and brain cancer. And we know exactly how to do this. So they're going to scale up the treatment of people living without HIV. Oh, none of these interventions can create an AIDS-free, because now it's called long COVID. It's not AIDS. Go listen to the next slide in that. You saw these when I was last in Stay Awake with Ohio Amy. We'll be up in Long Island in a couple of weeks on November 14th. So we'll be back and we'll show all this at the Stay Awake tour. So come on out and meet us, and you'll see how Trennis Evans and Ivan Raiklin also, how every level of those of us who are standing strong for God and our one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't care. There's nothing that will ever ever stop me from telling the truth. I'm working hard at speaking the truth in love, but that takes my poor pastor Rob McCoy. It takes him a little bit longer to teach me, but I'm working on that. So
It
that's
takes, yeah. You're very
yes.
brave, but you know what? That's because God made you that way. Not everyone has the courage you do and can withstand all of the name calling and discrediting. We just have to learn how to discern, uh, how to look at people. You know, Dr. Judy has the credentials. She has studied this. So, Dr. Judy, you're saying that what we call Lyme, you know, the
Is
lay people,
neuro AIDS
it's neuro AIDS.
and it's
So,
HIV.
okay. So
So
this
they're
may
ramping up treatment. So they're
okay.
ramping up treatment of people living with HIV/AIDS. It is a variant of HIV, GP15. So now they're going to kill everyone with what they call long COVID. And that's what they're doing with these infusions of these antibiotics. So they're letting ILADs kill you, or you kill yourself, or these other doctors who won't, who can't, or for whatever reason. I should say that, my courage, I'm blessed. I'm an identical twin. My grandfather told me when I was 10 years old, he was adopted by Edward Morse. His name was Edward Morse Fur, Morse. He was adopted by the inventor of the Morse code. So, hey, for Dr. Judy to decode things, and my grandfather told me when I was 10, I was crying because we got kicked out of Catholic school. And I said, oh, it doesn't matter anyway, because my mom was mad. And she and I said, I'm just twin B. I'm just twin B. I don't even have a name. And they just called us the twins. And my grandfather said, oh no, you're the most special of all, because you get the road not taken. So I knew from that day that I would likely never have children. I knew, because I knew that if I worked with this stuff as they tried to transmit it to young mothers who were the technicians in the lab, who weren't married. Oh, Tony Fauci never came anywhere near a patient. That coat's white as snow and mine's bloody as can be. They couldn't even put my bloody lab coat anywhere near anything, but I got the choice. I got to take to make a choice, and God, as you know, God made it for me, and He did when He formed the universe, and I'm blessed because my three nephews are beautiful kids. They have different names, so they don't have to worry too much. I always wear the love hat and no makeup, so nobody don't put your face in the bioweapon. It's a bioweapon. No more photo scans, folks. They're blinding you. Don't ask what's going on with your eyes. They're blinding you. And the Leidos machine, LEIDOS, it's your National Cancer Institute, and has been since I was there since I led the lab of antiviral drug mechanisms at the National Cancer Institute Screening Technologies Branch, Division of Cancer Therapeutics. Yeah, we never stopped doing what we promised you we would do, and we gave it all back to Trump Kennedy. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Judy, can people get a doctor's, I guess, something to not have to go through the Lido scan at the airport?
All you have to do is opt out. No, thank you. Pull your hat down. Don't look at the camera. Hand them your passport, your ID. Yeah, get a real passport, not a corporation. You're not a citizen of the U.S. There's no
That's
such thing.
that's
You're.
different.
I
I
know,
don't want
but
to confuse. It's already
just
confusing enough.
just say opt out. Yes,
Okay,
opt out.
for the
Stand in
people
line.
out,
You get a full body massage. It's good.
yeah, for the people out there who are struggling with this horrible, debilitating disease or set of symptoms, really is what it is. It's a set of symptoms, and that's why doctors are unable to diagnose it. They're not trained to diagnose it, and I know that's intentional. Because
And that's for every disease.
Okay.
We're not diagnosing these things. We got to the root cause. All this symptomology stuff, even Deborah Burks in 2024. Now, the reason why HIV is it's invisible. No, HIV is not AIDS. And she mixes her metaphors there too. We've got to stop talking nads, knacks, things we don't know about. We've got to stop leaning on our own understanding. We've got to trust only the doctors who are trustworthy, and we've got to make them show us the data. Show me the data. If they don't know what's in the needle, if they don't know what's in the needle, then they shouldn't have been. And then just ask, who is your malpractice insurance? You don't need a lawsuit. You don't need a word. Quit your Kaisers, quit your Medicare, quit your insurance. Go back and pay cash for your health care. They're not benefits. I don't owe my soul to the company store. I
Yeah.
want cash for my salary, no more benefits, no more being forced by the government. Freedom is not liberty. And I don't need to ask you for freedom to work in the United States of America. That's what they did to my grandfather. They murdered him.
Wow.
Cherokees.
Okay. I want, I just, okay. So we're looking at something that was created in the lab and to, they genetically altered this
Sure,
spirochete.
no, it's not the spirochete, but it's the virus. It's not the spirochete.
Okay.
They grew it in Vero monkey kidney cell line. It's AIDS. It's
Okay.
Ebola. It's the virus.
So
They
it's not,
weaponized the spirochete, but that's in there too. A spirochete has 10 circular plasmids. What's that?
okay.
Circular DNA. One can have SV40 of it. I did work with Cornell, Ruth Ley, LEY, in 2010 when we were still on the top of the world because that paper was irrefutable and always will be. Science, October 23rd, 2009. It showed you the variants of which virus. So they weaponized the spirochete, but I took every plasmid out of a bunch of worms, spirochetes. I took every circular piece of DNA out of the spirochetes in that area, and about 40% of them had the G protein 15 had HIV right there with the weaponized Borrelia. Bill, Willie Berdorfar, I told you what they were doing, but the spirochete, those black kids never stepped off that blacktop in George Washington. You know, they've never been to a farm. There's no tick. No, the
There's
snake
no,
needs a fang. They
yeah.
showed you how they were going to bioweapon the mosquitoes and released them in Miami and released them in San Diego. So they're
Yeah.
not going to stop. They're not going to stop exchanging viral sequences and in the way they do in nature in the various organisms. And they don't have to because they have no liability. So the long and the short of all of this, they literally experimented on your best and your brightest, your military, your athletes, your students, and the goal was to kill the women, your daughter. I'm sorry, and sterilize them, and that's not finished, and it's easy to fix this. We've done it before. We'll do it again.
Okay. I want to get there, but do want to bring this up. The only reason you had asked, when we started to see all this, we did see, and it was in 2011. It was just a couple years before that that we
Right.
started to see anxiety ramp up.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of think, well, that's normal for a preteen. Um, you know, okay, there must be some stuff going on. So as a parent, you kind of just try to calm that down with Bible verses and reading scripture. But then it doesn't go away, and healing, just like an appendicitis attack that's weird, and then that doesn't heal, and then because these things get into your organs, and I guess that's why they
It's
use
not the parasite, it's the virus. And your appendix is an immune organ, your appendix. Appendicitis, the word means inflammation.
right.
Anxiety is a sensor called transreceptor potential vanilloid Vanilloid, number one, trans receptor potential. You know how many God gives us? AMOP, LMNOP, everything, all those sensors, energy charge across the membrane. You have to get a poison across the membrane because your God's not going to let you bind. So yes, 2007 is when John Hewlett was in the hospital dying of appendicitis, ready for an appendix to burst. God told him, don't take that drug. And he didn't. And God gave him cardio miracle recipe, a recipe. And he made it. That was 2007.
Wow.
2006 is when your intramural neuroimmune research program. Oh, that's the cover of our first book. Not the white cover that they faked and changed the cover. The cover is a photograph that came from the INIP and it said 2006. So your National Institute of Aging and your National Cancer Institute got together and they said, we're going to do a call for papers because we're seeing too much Alzheimer's, which again is neuroaids and not not anything they've told you. It's not insulin, it's fatty. You're taking down their whole supplement. No such thing as a nutraceutical, and these aren't supplements. They're nutrients that they poisoned our food with the GMO. So
Interesting.
and so the 2006 matters. Yes, so parents will think preteens as anxiety, and then they hit them again. What they hit her with in seventh grade. What they hit her with, and what year was that?
I think you said DTAP, or that was in the an inconvenient study. I think they mentioned that in Del Bigtree's inconvenient study from the High Wire.
We did it in vaccine cord. It is DTaP. And they're
Okay.
doing it again in California. That's why I'm so passionate today. Stop
Yeah.
shooting your kids. Get them out of those schools. Stop.
Yeah. And in order, if people have a problem understanding what this is, I would suggest either find a molecular biologist who will look at your blood under a microscope with you there and can point out what's going on, because that's how we finally found what was inside. We had to go to a molecular biologist who operates under the radar, and ever since then, everyone I've sent there, everyone has spirochetes in them.
But it's the molecular biologist does not use you don't need an electron microscope to do electron microscopy, is only electrons. So the spirochete there is robbing the oxygen and turning on the X chromosome, turning on your antiviral response. It's turning on the latent HIV. It was latent. That was my PhD thesis. So dark field microscopy is helpful, but people are still doing the wrong treatment. You do not need the antibiotic. A parasite is anything that robs oxygen. They're not shooting those anymore. They're getting you with the bioweapon detonator at the airport called the Leidos machine.
Wow.
They're getting you with the 5G. They're getting you with the chemtrails. I'm pointing to the air. They're getting you with the spraying, with the metals. They're getting you with the food that is not. Roundup is not a weed killer. It's a soil killer. So all I needed to know is if NF kappa B is in the nucleus of the cell, you get AIDS.
Does this
So yes.
go?
Does
No,
it? I'll
no.
let you. So
Okay.
I'm just saying in the nucleus of the cell. That was my PhD thesis. So how does NF kappa B get in the nucleus of the cell? Oh, well, you phosphorylate the protein that holds it in the cytoplasm. It's called inhibitor kappa B. You add a phosphate group, glyphosate. Oh, so everything with glyphosate is sending NF kappa B to your brain, and you don't need a virus anymore. And people could say I'm a fool because there is no HIV there. And then you'll keep believing it's the spirochete. The dark field microscopy is important because it tells you, but the key is stop buying their food. Don't go in a grocery store, especially not one with a pharmacy in it. Don't eat processed food. Don't eat glyphosate. Don't eat irradiated food. It's in your hands. You don't have to get a molecular biologist anymore. You've got one and they know the truth, and we can hand you the whatever you need as the cures. We can give you peptide T. Finally, 25 years, 30 years. Peptide T, it's called DAPTA now. Think the government's going to fund it? Think the government's going to give us back our patent that was stolen from Genius Omnitura? Two patents, Genius Omnitura and Epigenics. We just made at Global Healing something called Oncogenics. I got tired of waiting, and I just said, you know what? Let's make it. I called Ed Group, and he's like, I got you, Judy. Let's do this. Healing for the ages. Go there and learn. Learn how to
Yeah.
clean up your own environment. Learn how to clean up your own water. Learn how they're lying to you. Organic is anything with a carbon in it, according to the FDA. According to the FDA. Organic, according to your grocer, is they didn't put pesticides on it. Do you know what deal our fabulous President Trump made with Gates with a bullet to his head? Get the appeal off our food.
Yeah.
Get the forever chemicals out of our soil. That's why Bonnie Hari, all these good people that are obeying, and Bobby and Trump are lining up. That's why I'm thrilled that you lead teams, because those two are leaders, and those two are personnel directors, and they know how to pick them, and they know data when they see it, and knowledge is not information. So if you're not sitting at shows like this, if you're wasting your time on all this BS about here's a new drug du jour to cure the variant du jour, or here's the new thing coming, quit, save your money. Take all your money. Can you imagine? Do you know how free I am? The liberty I've gotten. I don't pay anybody anything, including taxes, folks, because they're against our Constitution. We're a Christian constitutional republic.
Yeah.
There is no lawmaker here in this election, and you can't make a bond referendum with a human. We're a Christian representative constitutional government. We elect our republic government. We're not a democracy. It's not mob
Right.
rule.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
right.
mob rule, but that's what it is. Nobody should be having an election here to redistrict everything so that Republicans will never win an election again, because Kamala and Newsom is guilty of the premeditated murder and kidnapping of David Nolde. His
Mm,
name wasn't Mikovits. That's okay. God knew, and we got the
yeah.
answer. We had a really nice conversation. David will live in eternity. Yes,
Yeah. Um, Judy, I'm
and a
sorry for
hero,
all
by the
that.
way,
You've gone through
and a
so
hero,
much.
by the way.
But okay.
He's a
Yeah.
hero
Yeah.
because he calmed me, and Frank Rossetti, they're heroes. They calmed me down. They wouldn't let me use the name that would get them killed. I needed 10 years in order to see all this, and it needed to play out. 10 years, almost to the day of November 9th, 2011, my David was kidnapped
Wow.
and I wasn't arrested till 10 days later, November 18th, 2011. And I took a little plane ride and I delivered some. I hate to do that, but thank you, Jesus, because
Yeah.
hey, we knew if we didn't get those data, all humanity to Bobby at the time we didn't know Trump. If we didn't get those data in the hands of people of integrity, of statesmen, it was over for the United States of America.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, okay. I want to get to, I know there's so much, so much. But you mentioned, and I've heard you in other talks and probably at your book club mention this peptide T.
Mhm.
Tell me, is this something that we can just get and start taking? What is it?
Yeah, Peptide T. The movie is the Dallas Buyers Club. Just watch it, and you'll hear two things talked about: alpha interferon, Paximune, And you'll hear AZT, and you'll hear how they killed Arthur Ashe and Ryan White, and how they made Christians believe it was the bad behavior because Tony Fauci said only gay men, IV drug users, and prostitutes could get HIV and therefore
Yeah.
AIDS. And he was
Yeah.
right because it was injected in every hepatitis B vaccine. So they're trying to make you believe that the only way you could get borreliosis, it's not borreliosis, folks. It doesn't matter. Those tests were fraud. That company, why don't I just say it, IGeneX, because you're going down too. Anybody that does any of those testing, Quest, LabCorp, you're going down. You're part of criminal fraud. But it's up to you, Catherine. Do not try and get things. Wait, wait. The government is going to do the right thing.
Okay.
It's again because we've got to teach the doctors. It's the doctors like that are without courage right now. The MDs, PhDs teach MDs. Our education is the most important thing in this country. We've got to get God back in our schools, all of them. We've got
Yeah.
to teach American history. We've got as parents to take responsibility again for our children and teach them. We've got to get them out of this structure. That's why you have to cancel all your health insurance. How much money do you spend on health insurance? Oh, it's a benefit. It's free. No, it's destroying the United States of America. Take those signs down off the grocery store that says free flu shots. They're not free, they're destroying humanity in the one free government, the greatest government ever. One nation under God. Christians. Christians
Yeah.
who behave like Christ. That's the only way Christ is coming back. Lean not on your own understanding. Let us help you, but you have to get educated and you
Yeah.
have to hand it to your doctor and say, look at this. Because your doctors, we've held these classes in immunization clinics at Godspeak Church now here in Thousand Oaks for almost 2 years. The people come, but the doctors don't. The people come, but their doctors say, no, that's not true. That's that fraud, Dr. Judy Mikovits. And fine, I can't do anything about that. I couldn't do anything about that. And but the people who walk away are seeing what we call miracles. I should just say I haven't seen one pathology report that has been anything other than a lie. There's no such thing as turbo cancer. They're telling you have cancer and you're dead, and then they're poisoning your mind. That's why we teach in our book club, Pastor Casper McLeod's. That's why Stay Awake it was about. What was I thinking? Candace Pert, Molecules of Emotion. So yes, peptide T's been fully developed. We made a better version called Dapta now. That again, the companies that tried to get that to the people now for 40 years, all you have to do is give Genius Omnitura the money back for the $80 million in their patents. We've shown them online, the real Dr. Judy. Go look at it. We showed it to Merck in 15. Did they do anything about it? No, they didn't. We showed it to Upjohn in 2008. It's 7 and 8 when I was there. I think it was 6 and 7. And we found what they did to the milk. We got to stop GMOing our soy, our wheat. No more genetic
Mm.
modification of anything. It's not food. We
Yeah.
can't we can't look at this as any other way than it's our fault. It's our fault. We were supposed to steward the earth. The worst thing you can be is a vegan, unless you're Ed Group, because only he can get these plants from around the world. But you can get this food and the biophotonic water and the nano gold from the microsomal processing and the new way to make everything. No alcohols. We can get those things. That's what we're showing. We're showing you powdered foods and liquid foods. Then you go to the store. You don't buy any of their stuff. If it's in Cardio Miracle, don't buy it. Then go buy your tomatoes and your nicotine. Nicotine, that's how we hypomethylate and turn on the T cells that respond to HIV, Lyme,
Okay.
GPR15. We can silence it immediately.
Okay. With the nicotine?
No, I'm still going to try and take you when you start eating, when you get a foundation on it, when you get a one. I'm not going to give you an easy out because we can't piecemeal it together anymore. We have to educate ourselves. We have to take a minute, slow down. I know your daughters, I know your family's suffering, but there are three powders right now: Cardia Miracle,
Okay.
ProImmune. ProImmune for your liver. They're plasticizing a credit card of plastic in your liver every
Yeah.
week. You know, the liver health, the liver cleanse from Global Healing, you can do once a month, once every couple months. But you do, and then Dulsa, Dulsa, beautiful athlete and world class athlete, former bodybuilder Natalie Nicole. It's called Dulsa because multiple sclerosis is not; it's CIDP, chronic inflammatory. They're just changing the name on the all of these things, and everything on TV says ask your doctor if it's right for you. The minute you ask your doctor if it's right for you, you've given up your informed consent. The minute you took a free sample, the minute you walk in there, you sign a piece of paper says, I'm not going to drink grapefruit juice because our drug metabolizing enzymes. Go to our website. There's only 5 slides in the one I gave that you were at in Knoxville, Tennessee, and
Hmm.
I showed the Killary, but I also showed you how God's people, half of them now dead, probably even more than half now dead. They serve like Charlie. Give me liberty or give me death. So you have a
Hmm.
lot of heroes in the United States of America, and we'll never stop fighting for God. I'm never going to stop trying to speak the truth in love, but I speak in these parables because you're not hearing me. There's only one place to go for the truth, not AI, here. The word of God. That's the
So true.
only place you go. And that's how you're set free. Freedom is man's in government. Liberty is our founding father. We don't use them interchangeably any more than we use NACs and NAD, nicotine, adenine, dinucleotide, potential hydrogen, pH. Yes, cigarette smoking, because it's toxic because of what we call the aerial hydrocarbons, the things that float through the air and you don't see. Go get Pastor Lamar Jackson or Jackson Laymeier's book, Chasing the Wind, because that's what we're doing until stop chasing the wind, liberate
Hmm.
yourself with the knowledge, and it's right there, and it's not difficult to come by. But here in November, each of us and in each of our states, these shutdowns aren't these shutdowns happened every year. Most people don't even realize that Trump Kennedy didn't have any fiscal, FISCAL, money authority. The government fiscal year is October 1st to September 30th. So the bad guys, Schumer and the communists, just shut down the whole government and are extorting the people, saying we won't do this if
Yeah.
you don't do this. Well,
Right.
that's extortion. And
Yes.
I'm Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. I'll never stop trying. And you can come up to God Speak Church and we'll immunize. People don't need a shot. And all we do is give you Cardia Miracle, ProImmune, Dulsa, Bee Pollen, Jana Schmidt, Healing for the Ages. Please go watch this replay. It is priceless. You've got to learn your own environment. You've got to learn your own terrain. Once you know who you are, we already know whose we are if we call ourselves Christians. But get to where you know the environment of your grandmother. My grandmother survived diphtheria, and I have an antibody to it. you'll have an antibody back to 1900s. We've got everything we need. Magic Johnson tested positive for an antibody. He just accepted his second trophy for the LA Dodgers on TV. You know, oh, they put him on steroids, but the story wasn't what you were told. The story was a lie. Go back and look at that, and you'll see. Tony Fauci said only gay men, IV drug users, and prostitutes could get HIV and therefore AIDS. That's what he told then President Ronald Reagan. And then here comes Ryan White and Arthur Ashe, a little boy, multiply transfused, and Arthur Ashe, an advocate and an athlete. They killed him with AZT. And they tried to kill Magic Johnson. And fortunately, I defended my PhD thesis a week later, November 14th, 1991. He's still alive and I still got my degree. That all they asked me at my PhD thesis is based on your thesis. Will he or will he not die of AIDS? And I looked at him like the moroni they are. Willfully ignorant is moroni in the Bible. Morons. I looked at him and said, not only will he not die of AIDS, he'll never get AIDS. And he never did. They tried to kill him with drugs and they tried to make you think there was a different reality. That's why they published the movie, Why the Dallas Buyers Club in 2013. What year did they kill Candace Pert? 2013. Oops. All of us who were in the labs, I thank God I worked in the HIV lab and chose the deadly virus over counting colonies and TGF beta. So, and again, the best medicine you can get is listening to the books, Plague of Corruption and Ending Plague. You can mix them and match them, and we do it on the book club for you where I comment like this, but turn off your lights at night and just play the Audible. Don't try to read it. you know it's, and I only say that because they've changed all the diseases. CIDP is multiple sclerosis, and they knew it in 2004 and they changed the picture in 2014. I'll post the two pictures side by side on my X space later tonight. I will post
Okay.
those two pictures. 2021, 2020, 2018 CIDP. They just changed the cartoonist in the colors in the pictures, because an electron micrograph, you can't see an electron. You can't use the microscope. You can only see the electron bounce off something, off another structure at an electron level. And that's where the gobbledygook that people ask yourself, why did Deborah Burks go on that Cuomo show? All of these things are on our website. Go back and watch them. I put them up as soon as I come back from these events, and I try to learn from folks like you what we didn't understand along the way, and we talk a little bit further. So I'm not going to give you the answers you want. Um, I'm gonna
Okay.
let you dig a little bit, because well, it's important, and you know that, because once you get into and you realize we won't have any kind of civil war. I love Joe Jemsek. I know what he went through. I love all these folks. I
Oh,
know
good.
what people are going through now. I know what, the Academy of Nutritional Medicine in London. They had no such thing as mast cell activation disorder. No, your mast cells don't. That's what's lining your blood brain barrier. That's where the anxiety centers of the brain are. Oh, so you use a little polyethylene glycol and you break everything down. You've got antifreeze in all of these shots. I'll put up the excipient list. I'll come back next week and we can look at a couple of other pictures and dig down, because it's hard to take because you don't understand the science, and neither does any MD reading the science, because the corruption is at the level of the journals. The gatekeepers are the people reviewing the grants and the people reviewing the papers. And they say, who wants to reject Rossetti today? They literally, and they say, they hand you the data from another person's work who thinks it's confidential. When you submit it to get a grant, which you publish or you perish, they put an impact factor on journals, impact factor in the 90s, in the mid 90s. Oh, so that they were the decision makers on whose work deserved to be read. deserve to be funded and deserve to be read. So this is all about corruption of those 5 people that are shown right there, and they can all go to federal prison right now. Go line them up. Go get John Coffin. They'll go get Jonathan Stoye of Wellcome Trust. Those are the reviewers. And who is Tony Komaroff? The 3 reviewers of my paper. But a month before we submitted it for publication, John Coffin, who is he? Oh, why did he work at Tufts and the National Cancer Institute? He was your AIDS drug resistance program for more than 40 years, and they wouldn't let Doge, they wouldn't let Elon stay 3 months and dig into what was going on at Fort Detrick. Yeah, it's too much more than I got mine. As a country, we either make the soil healthy again, we either make the water clean, we either make the air clean. It's one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. And if we all can go back to Christ, that is the whole thing. When every knee bows, then we will see Christ return to the United States of America, and he will hear our prayers. That's why I pray 2 Chronicles 7:14 when I sign plague of corruption, because if we humble ourselves, call to him in heaven, humble, humble, humble. I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. I thought they'd do the right thing in a job interview with Patrick Songchong. Did I think they'd sell us out? No. I thought I'd get to go there that day. I thought somebody would see this. Well, nobody did. The couple who tried got their law licenses or anything else taken away from them. The last guy standing was Bobby Kennedy, and he got the autopsy that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt, in the sickest of the sick, you can rewire the whole thing, and actually your daughter and you can get back everything they lost in age, and then you'll be so much healthier and happier. But it starts here. What was I thinking? Pastor Casper McCloud, and that's the whole idea. I don't know how to say it any better than that, but every
I
part of our love and life is really just Jesus Christ, and we know that.
Yes, and it sounds like obviously the spiritual is the most important, and it has to be Christ, and it has to be the God of the Bible, not just any God, because just like you find in Second Kings, or First Kings, that God doesn't answer. That's a little G God, and the only God that answers is the Judeo-Christian God, because that's the only real God. But we're supposed to go back, it sounds like, Judy, correct me, to basics and eat as clean as possible. Cardio Miracle is a wonderful
Is one powdered nutrient dense
yeah,
food. It's just
yeah.
one solution. There are so many nutrients. It's a recipe. It's just powdered food, and it's our most heavily contaminated food, and it's where we get alkaline earth minerals. When you put magnesium with a carbon on it, that's organic. Calcium, we store calcium in they're called store operated calcium channels. Where do we get A, D, K, and E? Bee pollen, bee pollen, bee pollen, A, D, K, and E. I put it right in the middle of my cup it's down there in the goo in the bottom. I'm going to go add more water. And then the proimmune is simply in the tricarboxylic acid cycle. The proimmune is a powder that prevents radiation damage. And then you can add to it things like folium with our friend Bobre. We've got gut microbes. We're missing our essential amino acids, tryptophan. Arginine has been so heavily compromised. Arginine is so critical in our immune response to viruses. That's why, it's not just plastic beet powder. It's not, you don't take calcium, you get it from your food, your
Mm-hmm.
nutrients, the cows, the earth. It's so important to understand and appreciate and go back to farming. And there's a lot of great folks doing that, and you see that on the high wire. So your encouragement every week, you see that in children's self defense. You see where we're going to, but we've got to wake up people in a way, because most people never even appreciated what Tylenol was and wasn't. Nobody even remembers what Rye syndrome is. What was Rye syndrome? Oh, that's how they got aspirin away from us. What did the long chain non-coding RNAs, another hero from the Gemsic team that was down here with me, the long chain, Richie Shoemaker, the long chain non-coding RNAs. We know what all these RNAs are, and we know what's me and what's not me. I know what's me and what's Julie. Down, we're genetically identical. And the government will tell you there's no such thing. So you see, it's almost impossible to figure this out. So most people, I mean, is a hatred for one man, Trump, is it so great you'd stuff Tylenol and destroy your liver? Because you won't even try to learn what they did. You won't even try to see, what they're doing. Why, when your mother or your father goes to the hospital with congestive heart failure, they give you a tetanus shot? Yeah, because they're going to kill you. That's the whole point. There's no such thing as congestive heart failure. That means your livers can't ejection volume. I mean, your lungs can't ejection volume enough out. You don't have an output that can keep the fluid. That's why my lungs, I have a precancerous, cancerous, whatever you want to call it, called Barrett's esophagus. So that 30 years ago, somebody said, "Oh, you're going to get esophageal cancer." I said, "What are you going to do about it?" And he said, "We'll use proton pump inhibitors." And I'm like, and you know how I cured my esophageal cancer? I never went back, because I knew proton pump inhibitors were the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Prilosec. So anybody that tells you to take nattokinase, knowing full well it's not natto and it's not a kinase, and you don't know what variant you or your child it has, or what is troubling you, and what the cofactors like the Borrelia are. Is it a mosquito? What is the organ system that is not responding? And for
Mm-hmm.
most of us, the problem is the gut and the GI, and we've got to seal up that the glyphosate. Stephanie Seneff, that's in the second half of our book, The Toxic Legacy of Glyphosate. We interviewed Stephanie because that's how you uncoupled the virus, the HIV, from the disease. Because if
Mm-hmm.
NF kappa B is in the nucleus, all you needed was glyphosate. And you don't have you dimethylglycine, two methyl groups, that comes from grass. So when you look at the nutrients, they're nutrients, they're not supplements. Your God didn't need help. Genetically modified God. What's wrong with the flavor saver tomato? Oh, it looks really pretty, but it's thin skinned. Think about our children. Oh, we look really pretty. You don't look sick, but you're thin skinned. Your
Yeah.
anxiety's blowing your brain out, and you're
Yeah.
bleeding when you touch you. Come on, folks, it's the same thing. But again, we poisoned our food, our water, our air, and really the great timing on you being here today with me is that it's really important to know that healing for the ages, what you learned in that seminar, from Sherry Tenpenny to Sabine Hassan, those are the kinds of thing. And I'm happy to direct any questions you have. Like I say, I don't care if we get on here every week. Mondays are fine for me. We
Okay.
call it FU Mondays. Follow up. Follow up,
Fire up.
follow up.
I love it.
No, follow up. Follow up. You followed up
Follow
on
up.
last week.
I
Start
like
over.
fire up too because it fires me up to understand these things, and it's all I'm just a person who I like to know deeper,
Yep.
and that's probably why I've been following you for a long time and trying to understand, and I don't always understand. And you've seen me. I was just like, okay, I don't understand. I'm getting a brain cramp here. It's just And it's frustrating. And so I figure, just like anything else, I mean, I learned biblical Hebrew. So if I could do that, I can do anything, and I can understand Dr. Mikovits.
And I appreciate your patience because I'm trying to learn how to communicate. Poor Pastor Rob, he said, "You put stretch marks on my brain," and
Yeah,
I'm like, "I'm trying," because I don't know what you don't know, and nobody
right.
was taught this. Nobody was taught this. Since
Yeah,
1975, you were lied to, and it's closer
yeah,
to 63, but it ramped up there when all liability was removed from pharma. It was placed on HHS and Fauci. And now for 40 years, that corruption called vaccine court, we wrote it all down. It's in our book. We showed you, I'll give you every single case. I'll show you every bit of this. I'm going to start posting them and doing Substack because I know I will never sign a non-disclosure to disobey God, and that nobody should be signing NDAs. Do
yeah,
not sign your name to a contract that says, I will do this, even if it disobeys God, if they take everything. No, I will never shut up.
yeah.
Never, never, never.
Well, and
Until you
we'll just
shut me up.
I'll keep praying. We're a lot of us pray for you, Judy.
Thank you.
Um,
It's working.
you have been you're such a blessing, and I know that you get attacked from every angle. But you know what? The Bible says, finally stand, in His power. And I know that you stand in God's power, not on your own. I can't stand on my own, and I just pray that every day. Ephesians 6. So, all right. So I get to have you back if you want to come back.
Sure.
we'll just,
We'll come
we'll,
back and I'll pull that CIDP apart and I'll and
okay.
I'll pull out. I'll get down to each component. I'll show you the one slide of and the components of why I put these three powders together. And then I love the acid extract of hops called Fix, PH little I X. So that'll take somebody out of an anxiety if you just drop a dropper full in essentially your cardio miracle. You'll just like in those three powders, I put that in there, bee pollen, that, and it calms you down. It gets you out of the inflammation. I don't want to be fired up because people can't hear me when I get fired up. I want to be chilled out, but not too chill, because it is important, the messages we're having. So we'll break it down. We can come back every couple of weeks. Let's encourage everybody to get to Long Island. I'm hoping you'll be there with me in Long Island for Ohio Amy. Stay awake, because we're awake. How do you stay awake? That's when you learn, all led by Pastor Casper. What was I thinking? And we just rewire your thoughts, because it's really here.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the study I've done on the brain, it's from, I think it was, I can't remember this doctor's name, but he's written several books: Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, and
Mhm.
a couple other doctors. And they will tell you 90% of the things that are wrong with us, or that we are, sicknesses wise, not feeling well, it comes from our brain, from the way we're thinking. So it's very important we kind of rewire ourselves in our brain, and God has given us the ability to do that. It's not hardwired at all. So okay, so I've got the just one question before we go.
Okay.
Where do you get Fix? You have to get it from beer,
Oh no,
or
if you go to our website, therealdrjudy.com,
uh-huh.
and you'll see, I mean, don't flip over to the products, but you'll see it if you flip over to the products. The products go down to our sister practitioner company called Real Food Knowledge. It's called RFK in Punta Gorda, and that's where these energy healing, beautiful Yvette and the practitioners there, acupuncture in Punta Gorda, Florida, RFK, Real Food Knowledge. The products are and everything, the healing is there. Dr. Carrie Made is going to come in. She's not too far, so a day or two a week. We're going to start bringing in doctors to help and signing up people, and give them a little courage and a good foundation. And I'm just the real Dr. Judy is just education. You can hear everything I've said here today. You could click on last week's presentation, this week's presentation. Benoit did a beautiful job of doing all of that, in order to make sure he cataloged it. We've got ARCHUB, which is Johanna and Rich Mogul, all the teaching. We've got beautiful Avery Jackson, the neurosurgeon, who's the chief medical advisor for Cardio Miracle, and he's the one that can do these things with us. And he's got the body is a PMA, so go check that out. The PMA, it's important. And then books after books after books, and just things to watch and just edify yourself. But really, the most important thing is, don't bury yourself in anything else until you spend the time in the Word. Be in the Word as much as you can. Write it down on, with your pencil, because that transforms it to your brain. Learn
Yes, it
cursive again, because you will never forget the lessons you learn with your hand to your brain, but you quickly forget hitting a keyboard, as our brains are a lump of fat with signaling molecules in it, and the fat is poison. So we've got to eat healthy fats. That's why we've got to, at least with some of our most critical food, we've got to powder it, because the soil is so contaminated. Don't really know what else to say.
Yeah. Okay, where do people join your book club if they want to start tuning in?
So just go to therealdrjudy.com. You will see the book club. It's a Zoom every Wednesday at 4 to 7, 4 to 6, sorry, Pacific time. And then CC and Jeremiah Hosea, you'll learn a lot about fix from the Stop the Shots X space that comes on every night at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern. So we stop for the classes at Godspeak Church. You can come up and see us live in the book club, or simply you'll see a Zoom link right there through ARCHUB, that you'll get free. If you've ever taken any of our classes, or if you just simply sign up there to be part of the book club, you have to use your email. I'm sorry. We have to stand up and use our name and use our email so that we can contact you, because everyone is censoring us. There's just no, we don't send out a bunch of stuff. We don't do that. We only, that's why the products were never me, but I had to wait until we had RFK in Punta Gorda. It took us 2 years to get that there. But we're going to replicate that model at places like we already have. In fact, Michael Carlfeld at the Carlfeld Singer Center in Boise, Idaho, Meridian, Idaho area. We have Dr. Klinghardt in Woodinville at Sophia Health Institute. That teaching, we just do everything we can to teach you. And you can always write us and always call us, as you know.
Excellent. Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much for being available to train us. And I feel that this is what this has been. It's a training session, and being willing to continue. I love it. So, Dr. Judy, God bless you, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's fun because you see, there were only 5 people in that picture. Do you think we
Yes,
can take back our country? We can take back our country.
we can. There'll be a lot more. Trust me, a whole lot more. It's okay.
Okay.